Hi, this is Yishan. Welcome to Deep into Sleep, Episode 2. Imagine if you are a night owl for many, many years, and you struggle to work really late and cannot get enough sleep and have trouble to get up in the morning. And one day you decide, I'm gonna turn myself into an early bird. What your life gonna look like? That's exactly what our today's guest, Pat Flynn, will share with us. His journey of changing sleep that make him a better father, husband, and a more successful entrepreneur. Pat Flynn owns several successful online businesses, and he is a host of two very successful podcasts, The Smart Passive Income and Ask Pat. These two podcasts combined together have earned over 55 million downloads. Let's hear about his journey for a good night's sleep. Hi, Pat. Welcome to Deep into Sleep.
Thank you, Yishan. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about this today.
Great. So I'm so curious, as a successful and busy entrepreneur, are there any challenges with your sleep?
Yes, I think this is something all entrepreneurs and especially people who just are excited about life. It's hard to sleep sometimes because there's so many things that we want to do, and especially as an entrepreneur, you have an always growing to-do list. I used to work a 9-to-5 job, and I definitely remember what it was like back then. And I remember coming home from work and just being able to turn work off and turn on personal life and getting dinner and then going to sleep and getting ready for work the next day. And it was always more regular that way. But since being an entrepreneur, which started in 2008, so it's been about 11 years since I've been doing this, sleep has been very irregular. And I remember when I first started out, I thought I was in that small group of people who didn't need, 7 to 8 hours of sleep and I could survive. And that's how I got through college. I was an architect, so we were quite busy all the time. And,
Yeah.
I felt that there was energy. But as I've gotten a little bit older, I'm 36 years old now, I've realized that sleep is probably one of the most important things for me as a business owner, as a husband, as a father, for my mood, for my creativity. As a performer, as somebody who speaks on stage, as somebody who writes a lot of books, I've noticed that sleep has been so important, and I only wish that I was a little bit more wiser back then, because it makes me wonder how much more energy I would have. And the challenge is just, it's hard to turn off being an entrepreneur, and especially even now with whether you're an entrepreneur or not, you likely are staying up late, watching Netflix or on your device or iPad or in front of your computer doing something, even if it's not work. And I know that, that blue light that's emitted, if you don't, pay attention to that, it can reduce the quality of sleep that you have or make it a little bit harder to sleep. And there's so many challenges to sleep now. And it's tough because I think we're starting to finally realize, thanks to people like yourself, just how important it is. Yet we still are getting in our own way of doing sleep. And I think the biggest thing for me is I used to think that, I could get an extra hour of work in if I just, take away an extra hour of sleep. But I've realized that it's the opposite. If I actually get more sleep, my work is more productive. And it's just such a challenge because now that I'm on my own and I have so many things to do, I often sacrifice sleep for that.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely hear a lot of people talking about that. And this is great that you share this. And sounds like when you become entrepreneur and when you're on your own, life is less structured. So there's a lot more you have to figure out, and sometimes tend to prioritize work over sleep. The energy level really connect to sleep. And I'm very curious because when I took your Power Up podcasting class, you mentioned you did something to your sleep. You adjust it, you change it somehow. And I really want to know, what have you done with your sleep?
Yeah, I mean, in architecture and throughout my early parts of my entrepreneurial career, I was a night owl, and I would do a lot of my work late at night, and I would get a lot of my writing done after midnight. And then I heard about this guy named Hal Elrod who came out with this book and this sort of movement called The Miracle Morning. And it was about personal development and focusing on not just getting sleep, but waking up earlier. And which obviously means you got to go to bed a little earlier. And I experimented with that. I wanted to try it and see what happens. And I soon realized that the early morning wake up times were much more productive than the stay up late times. And so I would do things in the morning like journal and meditate and those kinds of things, a lot of personal development. And the other cool thing about this was it was before anybody else in the house was woken up. So I had time to myself. And I have 2 young kids as well, and I knew that once they were up, it was hard to do work. So it really encouraged me to make sure I was super productive in the morning. So after my personal development stuff, I would get a lot of work done, and I would get it done really fast. I had a full tank of energy from the night's sleep before. So this is different because before I would just use whatever fumes were left over in the day to get my work done. But I changed to a morning routine, and it really changed my my sleeping patterns. And in addition to that, I mean, there's always been a number of things that I've tried and I've attempted to do. Like, for example, I love to track. And I've been using a device called an Aura ring. There's a lot of devices that help you keep track of your sleep and the quality of sleep. But I'm using it's a ring called the Aura ring, Oura. And it keeps track of your movement at night. And it gets very specific in terms of how much light sleep you've had, how much deep sleep, how much REM. And I've been paying attention to just, okay, well, what I do during the day and how active I am or what I eat even has played a role in my sleep and how that affects the quality of my sleep. And when I wake up in the morning, I sync my ring to my app and it tells me, oh, here's your sleep score. And that's really motivating for me because then I can actually be conscious of what's happening. I think, I went 35 years of my life just sleeping without a care of how great that sleep was. And now I'm actually paying attention and I'm making active choices during the day to influence the quality of my sleep, knowing that it's going to help the next day for me. So that's another thing that I've been doing. And then the last thing has been really focusing on my diet. And I've noticed that since shifting to a keto / low carb type diet, that it's really been helping me get a lot more longer, deeper sleep, which is really interesting. And a weird side effect is when I first went on the keto diet, I've been having these very vivid dreams as well, which is really interesting. And it's gotten me interested in things like lucid dreaming and trying to, see what I can do while I sleep to just have more fun with it. I don't know. It's just, I'm always experimenting with new things, but those are some of the big things that I've done that have had an effect on my sleep cycle.
Wow, that's great. And sounds like you not only shift your circadian rhythm from a night owl to an early morning person and then get a lot done, but you are really on top of monitoring your sleep pattern and how that even relate to your nutrition level, your diet, and all together to adjust yourself to live healthier.
I'm trying. And I'm, it's not perfect. And like the other night, I had some work to do, and I was like, okay, I'll stay up later to do this, and knowing that the next day I wasn't able to do it. So, it's not perfect, but I think that the biggest thing for me is even though I know that I'm not perfect all the time, and I do have nights where the sleep score is low, that it just means, I just have to try better next time. And, it's just like going on a diet, right? You can't feeling like you have to be 100% perfect, and then the moment you have a snack maybe that you shouldn't have, it's all ruined. It just means no, you just come back and try better next time. And that's how I feel about my sleep too. But I wake up in the morning and I just assess my feelings, and I look at my app to see, okay, how did I do last night? And it's really motivating for me to improve. And also, I do, and it's interesting. I look at the score and I'm like, yes, today is going to be a good day. And the opposite, when I have a bad score, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do better tomorrow. I never make it, oh, I failed, but I always make it, okay, I can do better, or hey, today's going to be great. And that it does influence my decisions for the day. It does influence my activity for the day. It's just, how you wake up is how you have your day. And if you wake up and you start thinking it's going to be a bad day, you're probably going to have a bad day. And if you wake up and you have a feeling that like it's going to be a good day, you're more likely to have a productive and good day.
Yeah, exactly. This is fascinating how you wake up during the day and to start the day. It's so important because in sleep, we always talk about waking up at the same time, actually set anchor for
Mhm.
your whole day. And it's very important. And you add on more like the attitude you wake up with, how you think about your last night's sleep, how you think about the day ahead of you. It's also play a big role. I really, really like your attitude, especially when you have a bad score or not so good score. A
Mhm.
lot of people, when you talk about tracking the sleep, my worry is a lot of patients I have seen, they get so anxious. They check their score. They're like, oh no, this is bad. I slept poorly last night. And what if I can sleep like this for the next several days? My sleep is broken. But for
Right.
you, you are full of hope and you are very optimistic. You see the score, you only say, oh, I will do better tomorrow. That's a lot of hope. That's a lot of like the message you send yourself. It's strong. You are actually empowering yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't always that way, and this is stuff that I've learned as an entrepreneur. The attitude really creates the reality, and that's how I feel like I've become successful. Not because I had anything handed to me; I worked hard to get here, but
Mhm.
also I've had a lot of help from people, and I've realized that it's the mindset really that it's the mind that controls the body, and that it's the mind that controls the output. And so, the more that I can focus on having a better mindset related to anything in my life, the more likely it is I am to be happier ultimately and to have a better life and to be able to better provide for my family, and the better I'm able to provide for my audience and serve them too. So it's all about the mindset, and you know, that's, you know, when you're sleeping, it's the brain that gets to recharge, and that's where your mindset is, right? So it's all
Yeah.
connected. It's really interesting, and I found that just having just number one, like if anybody out there is listening and you're just starting to learn how to sleep better and you're starting to realize the importance of it, I think the most important thing is just, you know, you've already accomplished step one, which is knowing that, hey, this is important. Just like if you have a drinking problem, the first step is to know that you have a drinking problem, and then you can consciously get help, whether that's help from others or helping yourself or reading material or listening to podcasts like this. And you know, the first step is just being conscious of it, and that's why you know, I think you know, again, it's all about the mindset.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And self-awareness is the foundation, right? The first step.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the mindset, similarly to how we treat insomnia, other sleep disorders, we also use a lot of ways to shift people's mindset that sleep is not broken and sleep can be better. There are a lot of hope. We just need to adjust ourselves accordingly. Yeah, so I really like the mindset
I think I,
piece.
I think the other part of this is thinking about, okay, well, what happens if I don't change my ways? What happens if I don't focus on these important aspects of my life? And I think about sleep, and you know, there's a lot of good TED Talks out there. There's a guy, gosh, I can't remember his name, but he's also a sleep expert, and he was interviewed.
Matthew Walker?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He was on the Joe Rogan podcast, which I
Mm.
listened to, and he talked for 2.5 hours about sleep and the consequences of not getting proper sleep. And you know, there's Alzheimer's disease and
Right.
things like that that can happen later in life that you know, can come along all of a sudden as a result of years and years of poor sleep. And it really scared me because, you know, I would, like, I'm imagining my kids older, and if I had some, you know, mental health issues as a result of a lack of sleep, it would be a burden to them. It would be sad. It would like, what if I forget them? That's like my ultimate nightmare, is if I were to be older and have them need to take care of me, but then, you know, I forget who they are. I mean, that's an extreme case, but I think about those things, and it makes me again, it just helps, it helps solidify the idea of, okay, sleep is important, and I must, you know, make sure to take care of myself. And I have consciously made decisions when I could stay up later to not, so that that doesn't happen later in life.
Right, right. Yeah, it's definitely a great motivation to keep on reminding ourselves the consequences of losing sleep, not getting enough sleep, and not working on sleep. Yeah. So one small point when you mentioned, I'm just curious because I struggle this myself too. I'm not really a night owl, but I'm an evening tendency person.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to wake up early, but no matter how hard I try, I have trouble. I think a lot of our listeners have that struggle too.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any tips to help yourself wake up early, sleep early, and wake up early and make it happen?
Yeah, I mean, there's some tips that I've heard other people do, and I'll share mine as well. But one tip that I heard somebody create was they used a tool called I think it was Meet Edgar, and there's a lot of tools like this, Buffer, and these are website applications where you can pre-write a tweet and pre-schedule it. And this person, his name is James Clear, and he wrote a book called Atomic Habits, and he talks a lot about forming good habits to support your life. And this was one of his strategies was he wanted to wake up earlier as well. So he pre-wrote a tweet that goes out every day at, I think, 5:30 a.m. that his entire audience would see unless he turns it off. And in order for him to turn it off, he has to wake up and turn it off. So if he oversleeps, his audience will see a message that says, "Hey, everybody, I overslept. Please comment and let me know like how shameful or what I can't remember the exact language, but it wasn't harsh. It was just like him admitting automatically to everybody every day that he didn't wake up on time. And of course, he didn't want that to happen. He didn't want that message to go out. So he created a recurring consequence, a light one, but a consequence nonetheless, that would go out if he didn't wake up. And I don't do that, but that's an interesting strategy that I heard that I was just reminded of. So you could do something similar where there is a consequence on a daily basis, and you'd have to sort of wake up to turn it off. And that is enough for him, at least, to get you out of bed to do that. For me, my motivator, so number one, it's just, I remember when I shifted to the morning routine, it was difficult. I pressed snooze a lot, and it took me about 2 weeks to shift from night owl to morning person and wake up before 5 a.m. And it was a lot of failures, a lot of mistakes. But here is the thing that Hal told me, because I told him that I was having trouble waking up early, and I was hitting the snooze button a lot. And he says, every time you hit the snooze button, you're telling yourself that going back to sleep is more important than the things you have to accomplish today. And so when you go to bed at night, I want you to think about what are the things that you want to accomplish the next day, so that when you wake up, those will be on your mind and you'll be less likely to hit that snooze button. And I was like, whoa, that's again, mindset, right? And so I would wake up and go, okay, what is more important? Hitting the snooze button and getting 5 more minutes of sleep only to hit the snooze button again for another 5 minutes, or this book that I'm writing that could serve tens of thousands of people? Am I going to let 5 minutes of sleep get in the way of helping these people? So that's another mindset thing. And the other thing about the the alarm and waking up, I think the other mindset shift that I had was, traditionally for the first 34 years of my life, or no, it was, how many years ago did I start the Miracle Morning? It was like 5 years ago. So for like the first 30 years of my life, anytime an alarm went off, it was for somebody else. Yes, it was for me to wake up, but it was for me to wake up so that I could go to school or drop the kids off to school or go to work for somebody else. Never had I considered that I could wake up for me and work on me time. And when I made that mental shift as well, combined with everything else that I just mentioned, it was like, oh, this alarm right now is for me so that I have time to work on myself. And before anybody else, before I get to devote my energy to somebody else's career and their dream, before I have to worry about getting the kids to school, I can work on me. And so waking up for me motivated me to get out of bed early in the morning and start working on that.
This is great. I really like that. I'm going to have to try that. And I believe that can help me to get up early too.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, you're helping people on this podcast, right? And they need you to have all this information. I don't know if you're going to be writing a book one day. I hope you do. But, if you were doing that, would you just say, oh, I'll go back to sleep? Or knowing you have all these people who are listening, all these people who could read your books and blogs and all that stuff, like,
right.
exactly. there's a reason to wake up, right?
Yes, yes. And I love the me time part too. Yeah, great. So the last question, a lot of our listeners on this podcast, they struggle with sleep one way or another. And I want to ask you, what are some top 3 tips you have about sleep that you want to really share with them?
Yeah, so one thing I learned is that we sleep in cycles. We go through light and deep and then REM, and then we just go through that cycle again and again in about an hour and a half time periods. It's just our rhythm. And, having tracking will show you that. But I realized that actually sometimes, this might sound weird, but if you wake up earlier, you actually are more energized, meaning if you wake up as cycles are starting again, if you have your alarm go off in a period where you're in deep sleep, you're usually going to wake up a lot more groggy. It's going to take more time to get started in the day, and that can often set you off for a bad day if you considered what we talked about earlier. So usually if you can get sleep in about an hour and a half increments, so waking up, for example, with 6 hours of sleep is better than 6.5 hours of sleep. But the ultimate would be 7.5 hours of sleep versus 8. Again, this is what I've learned. I don't know if that's what you teach, Yishan, but that's what I found, and tracking that has confirmed that for me. So that's tip number 1: is see what you can do to try to wake up in between cycles, not in the middle of cycles. You'll have far more energy. Number 2, a coffee curfew. I am a coffee drinker, and I would drink coffee throughout the day and throughout my work time. And then, my last cup of coffee usually was around 4 p.m., which would make it a lot harder to sleep because, coffee has like an 8-hour half life, and it's still in your system, and it's more difficult to sleep. You can suffer from insomnia if you have that caffeine in you still. So I have a coffee curfew of about 1 p.m., and I found that that's made a dramatic difference in me in terms of how easy it is for me to fall asleep and the quality of sleep that I have as well. My heart's not racing as fast when I'm sleeping too. If you have a lower heart rate while you sleep, you'll get better, deeper sleep. So that's number 2, is that coffee curfew. If you're a coffee drinker, have a cutoff time so that by the time you're falling asleep, hopefully at the same time every day, you're able to get into sleep much sooner. And then finally, is I've realized that sleeping in a little bit colder environment allows me to go to sleep a little bit faster and also have better sleep as well. So I am not wearing heavy pajamas. The air condition has made the house a little bit cooler, and sometimes the windows are open as well, so that it's a little bit colder. Because I don't know the science behind it, but I found that does work. Along with keeping the room as dark as possible. This is why when we go to hotels and we have that blackout curtain and everything's completely dark, and we just have an easier time to sleep, it's because it's completely pitch black. And, sleeping with the TV on or some lights on, it can be a little bit more difficult to get sleep. Even when you are, when your eyes are closed, your skin, I think, has receptors that can still feel that light, and it's going to reduce the amount of, ease when it comes to falling asleep.
Yeah, great. I love all 3 tips. And actually, all 3 tips has some science behind it. Even though you don't know it, I think you are finding what works for you. That's exactly what sleep is about. Sleep is a very individual thing. There's a lot of science behind it, but we adjust it to make it work for different individuals.
I like that.
Yeah, that's great. So, Pat, I know you have a book that you're going to release. I'm actually very excited about that. I already pre-ordered it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to introduce that book to us?
Oh, yeah, I would love to. Thank you, Yishan, for allowing me to share this. It doesn't have to do with sleep per se, but it is involved with business and entrepreneurship. So anybody out there who's listening, who's just curious about my style of entrepreneurship, I am a business owner who really focuses on the experience that people have in my brand, and that's really helped me earn a lot of really big raving fans and super fans. And I'm just a dude in San Diego who is podcasting from his own house. Yet I can go somewhere and tweet that I'm going to be at a restaurant somewhere, and then my fans will come out and meet me, and it's just incredible.
Wow.
And they are there to support me, and they buy every product and that kind of stuff. This is where business, I feel, should be done. Just like in the old days where you would go buy bread from Bob the baker because Bob knew your family and you knew Bob and you had a relationship with him, versus how a lot of people are doing business today, which is, these lifeless ads and just spamming and all kind of stuff. So this book is called Superfans, and it's a book to help you learn how to grow your business and grow your tribe and build a future-proof business. And it's for all levels of business owners. But I'm very thankful that a lot of people have been resonating with this message. And the book comes out on August 13th, and it's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and other places that you can get books. And I hope people will, after listening to this, if they have a little inkling of becoming an entrepreneur themselves, maybe you own your own practice. It doesn't matter what kind of business you have, offline or online. You want to build for amazing experiences. And I think that you're going to find a lot of great tips and strategies in this book to help you get that, even if you're just starting out. And, it's fun. There's a lot of fun stories in there and a lot of good examples from, solo entrepreneurs and YouTubers, like from those kinds of people all the way to Fortune 500 companies and companies like Lego and how they're building fans. And these things are so important today. And I know that, Yishan, you're building fans right now by providing some tons of amazing value here on the show. And hopefully I've earned some fans today from you as well. And so pick it up, Superfans by Pat Flynn. You can find it on Amazon. If Yishan, I don't know if you have a link or something that you want to share with people after this, but I hope you all grab it and enjoy it. And I look forward to learning more about you and how you might be starting your business too. And thank you again for allowing me to share that.
Yes, great. Definitely. All this information will be found on the show note.
Perfect.
For sure. Yes. Okay, great. Thank you for coming, Pat, today. And I learned a lot from you, and I'm sure the listeners learned a lot from you. And these are very valuable information. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, and hope you all get a good night's sleep tonight.
I have really enjoyed this conversation with Pat Flynn. Just like what he said, prioritizing our sleep is prioritizing our health. Hopefully, whoever is listening, you learn as much as what I have learned. You can find more information about Pat and his book and the other resources he talked about in our show note. Our website is deepintosleep.co, and his show note located at deepintosleep.co/episode/002. Thank you for listening. I will see you next time.
Sleep is an individual thing. We all sleep differently, and there is so much we can do to improve sleep quality. Keep hope and carry on. This podcast is for general informational purpose only and does not include the practice of medicine or other health professional services. Usage of the information we share is at the listener's own risk, and our content does not intend to be a substitute for any medical and professional services, diagnoses, and treatment. Please seek professional health services as needed.
Are you suffering from insomnia? I promise you, the CBTI method in my course will definitely help you. Even if several nights of better sleep, that would be a world-changing experience for you. I have had so many success from my insomnia patients who have taken this course over the years. If you know someone who are struggling with sleep, go to my website and check out my course at deepintosleep.co/insomnia.